Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Friday, August the 11th, 2017, and I have the very distinct honor and great pleasure of welcoming to the show for the first time a gentleman that you all should be quite familiar with. He has been a great silver advocate for a number of years, and he has produced some of the most in-depth writings and articles around silver and the reasons for owning silver that are out there. And of course, I'm speaking about Mr. Chris Duane, and you can find all of Chris's work and all of his silver offerings at silvershieldexchange.com. And you can also find them at the Daily Coin's premier advertiser, sdbullion.com. And without any further ado, Chris Duane. I know that you have been under fairly heavy attack for your stance on cryptocurrencies, and I'm
Yeah,
very glad
I'm
that
used to
you.
it though.
Yeah, I am
I've
too.
been attacking bullshit my entire life, so I have no problem doing what I think is right, regardless what other people think.
I've made some videos recently. I don't know if you've seen any of them, but giving my perspective on what I've been able to research and find on the cryptocurrencies and
Hmm.
my fear of the cryptocurrencies being encircled by all the bankster scum that, quite frankly, you've reported on for years and years. I've reported on for years. Report on them every single day. These
Yep,
are these are people that commit crimes against humanity.
yep.
Period.
I mean, Blythe Masters. I
Blythe
mean,
Masters.
she started with digital asset holdings in Israel. What, 4 years ago now? I mean, and you got all these, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Ben Bernanke, like they're all for this. Like, the only reason why these guys in the so-called truth community have sold their souls is because they're making a profit out of it. That's it. There's no intellectual justification for a digital currency, that basically enables the worst in humanity. And this is what the next step is. I've said from the very beginning, it's a digital test tube baby for, the ultimate mark of the beast, global domination of what they want.
Yep.
And, everybody sent me the link from Sean's latest thing talking about this ACC coin. And, Chris, you were right. I'm like, why do I need some, lady, bringing this up to justify what I've been talking about for years? I called this out 2012, and I even talked to the lead developer, Gavin Anderson. I mean, when they tried to make the move on me, 2012, 2013, to get me to recruit into it, they sent, Gavin. I mean, he's the lead developer of Bitcoin, and I talked with him for over an hour, and his experience at the CIA and Langley, and at no point did he, this lead developer, give me any cause or pause to think that this is anything other than, a Ponzi scheme, number one, and two, a test tube for something much more nefarious. His one thing that gave him pause when he was at Langley, after he was done with his little presentation, one of the guys from the CIA asked him. He said, this could be used for, ill purposes. How do you feel about that? And his response is the same response. All technology could be used for good or evil. But when you know the CIA and know what they do, and know that they know purposely that they could use anything as for good or evil, I looked at that as nothing more than they were testing this kid to see if he was one of them, and he clearly wasn't. And I don't think he's still on the Bitcoin project anymore, or if he is, he's may not see what it is. But my studying of all this nefarious shit that's been going on in the world leads me to believe that they know damn well what it was. And then, what was that other paper that was put out by the NSA 12 years before the Satoshi white paper, talking about making a mint out of
Cryptographic
yeah,
currencies.
cryptographic currencies. I mean, like, and yet today people are going, oh, Chris, Bitcoin's $3,500. So, like, I wouldn't be a part of it. You know, if it goes to 10 million, it just is not worth selling my integrity and soul to, you know, for a quick buck. You know, and these people who, you know, complain, you know, about the greed of Wall Street, how are they consciously any different? You know, do you think the guys on Wall Street, you know, when they screw over clients with, you know, credit default swaps and all that other stuff, they're out partying because they made money, you know, and that's what
Right.
these crypto guys now are. They're partying because they made money, not because it was morally correct or just, or, you know, that they benefited the world. They got theirs at the cost of somebody else, and that's what I see going on.
Well, one of the things that's happening is a lot of the funds that could be going into gold and silver, into real assets, is now being redirected into cryptocurrencies. And the argument is, well, I'm making money on cryptocurrencies and I'm losing money on gold and silver. And when I hear that argument, the first thing that pops into my head, Chris, and you can correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
but that tells me that this person really doesn't have a true grasp on what gold and silver are, and as
yeah.
far as their purpose, their role in our lives. They're not an investment vehicle, right?
Well, I look at it in a couple of ways. You know, number one, I get why after 6 years of this bear market in silver and people thinking that you know, silver was going to be the you know, the silver bullet and the silver shield, so to speak. You know, why they're tired of, you know, being beaten down. I mean, I did a video talking about how they spend $5 trillion a year into suppressing paper silver, and you know that's how much energy it takes for them to hold silver down at 16. You know, if it wasn't, God knows what silver would be. I mean, it would be astronomical
Yes.
if they didn't have that consistent pressure on it. The thing that I said this, and I even back in this silver conference that I went to back in 2012, I warned silver investors. I said, you know, if you're into this to, you know, make a quick buck, you know, to go do, you know, coke and hookers in Vegas, you know, this is not for you. Like this to me is a moral generational wealth. This is what real men do for their family. They don't gamble. They don't mix, gambling and luck with investing in intelligence. And my experience is that all these quick flash in the pan, I'm making so much money, look at me, arrogance that I'm seeing now is similar to what I saw with the tech bubble, similar to what I saw with the housing bubble, and now what's going on with the crypto bubble. And you know, I don't care. I've passed on Apple stock, Google stock, credit default swaps, McMansions, all this stuff. I don't care about that because I know at the end of the day, the biggest transfer of wealth is going to be from these intangible digital illusions of wealth into real tangible things. And that's all I'm concerned about is for that single moment when all of humanity is now questioning what do they have, and the reality is they have nothing. It's all just an illusion, and it's empowering the worst in humanity. So I look at this from a moral perspective, a generational perspective, a deeper perspective than making a quick buck. I'm not interested in making a quick buck. I'm interested in preserving wealth, which is what silver to me does. It's real, it's tangible, it's vital, it's versatile, it's eternal, and it's historic wealth. And that's why I'm interested in silver and not anything else other than that. And I wish
Yep.
there was. I wish there was other assets, even gold. I can't even bring myself to buy an ounce. I have 1 ounce of gold in my life, and that's just for, display purposes. But even at gold, at this gold to silver ratio, I can't even make a case to even go say, "Hey, go buy some gold." You know, maybe because it saves some room, but you know, I'd rather find find more places to bury shit than to sacrifice ounces for less ounces.
Well, I like silver, and I really like what you're doing with the mini mintages. I think
Yes.
that's a very cool program that you've got going on. I think that
Yeah.
that's one of the long term solutions that people should look at. And you are a very solutions oriented person. You have a long term view, and that's one of the things that I respect most about what
Thank
you
you.
are doing and the work that you do. And in one of your more recent videos, Chris, you said that you explained a little bit about your exit strategy as far as getting out of silver and keeping your silver, taking a loan against it when everything kind of falls apart. Can
Yeah.
you kind of expand on that and share some of that with the audience? Because I think that that is a huge, huge key to understanding where we're at, where what is potentially going to happen, and
Hmm.
how we survive after something does change. Because change is coming, that's for sure.
Yeah. I started my solution based off of being the antithesis of the problem. Even Silver Shield to me is the antithesis of Rothschild, which is Red Shield, which is, the Seal of Solomon, which is, this debt and death paradigm. And the Rothschilds, like in the video I just did, made the greatest fortune off of knowing who won the Battle of Waterloo. And they had advanced knowledge of knowing that England had won. And I did the whole story about how Nathaniel Rothschild shorted all these British stocks, causing a panic because everybody thought that he knew that Napoleon had won. And they shorted all their stocks, sold everything that they could, and he was buying them up at 10 cents on the dollar. And when news came the next day that the British had in fact won, all the stock prices returned back to where they were the day before, except the ownership of it was now in the hands of the Rothschilds. And they leveraged that into controlling the Bank of England, the British Empire, other banks around the world, other empires around the world, caused world wars, funded the Bolshevik Revolution, all these things to upset and overthrow the powers that were out there. And they have built up over this time period a untold amount of wealth. People go, "Oh, Bill Gates has $60 billion." Well, that's cute compared to the trillions of dollars we all owe in these promissory notes, because that's all these dollar bills, euros, yen. They're all promissory notes. They're all debt-based notes. When it says Federal Reserve note, that means it's a debt. We owe that back plus interest, and we owe all of that back to the Rothschilds, the Schiffs, the Warburgs, the Rockefellers, these real trillionaire owners that own and control the world. Now, this can and has been going on for generations, and then you get to this complacency where, I even heard Paul Craig Roberts say, this could go on forever. The Fed can control. No, things don't go on forever. At some point, it does end, and we're into the age of the internet. We're into the age of 4 generations into this current dollar Ponzi scheme with Social Security and all these $1 trillion of debts. And when things usually look like they're most unstoppable, that's when they're the most weakest. And I'm of a belief that there is a quickening that is going to happen that, we saw in 2008. People start to question, what things were. The internet was not really fully going on back even in 2008. You look at some of the, large YouTube channels back then only had, 30 or 40,000 subscribers like Alex Jones did back then. And now they're into the millions. Guys like me and you didn't have anything. We were still in the mix. And at some point, there's going to be another question of what's going to happen. And, I think that that's going to be the final move, because the 2008 financial crisis was an institutional corporate problem that got absorbed up by the sovereign nations and central banks of the world. The next financial crisis is going to be at a sovereign central bank level, and it's going to question similar to what we're seeing in Venezuela with the collapse of their currency and the suffering that happens then. And it's my hope that people don't fall for, oh, it's Trump, oh, it's Hillary, oh, it's whoever, Theresa May in England. It's none of those political puppets. It's always been the banksters that have been owning, controlling, and doing this paradigm. And it's my hope that, people start to wake up to realize that, there's a power behind the scenes, and they benefit off of this debt and death paradigm. And the only solution out of it is silver. So when I came to my ultimate exit strategy, I recognized that all this quadrillions of dollars worth of debt, debt-based assets, these digital illusions of wealth, will find some real value in it, and it usually ends in zero, starts with zero and ends in zero. And things will be bought for 10 cents on the dollar, pennies on the dollar. And silver, I believe, which has been suppressed for 140 years, since the crime of 1873, will find incredible real purchasing value in real terms. I have no doubt that we at the peak of this, you may be able to buy an acre of land for an ounce of silver. Because in the real world, there's 8 billion arable acres of land, not just land in general, like deserts and mountains and stuff. Arable acres of land, and yet there's probably less than about 1 billion ounces of silver above ground. So that ratio would mean that you'd be able to buy 1 ounce of silver for 8 acres of land. I don't know if we'll get to that high, but I'd like to see something even close to that. But even if we don't get there, I came up with the ultimate exit strategy that would say, if you get to a point where silver is tremendously overvalued, or back to a real valuation, having a gold to silver ratio anywhere between 1-to-1 gold to silver, or 1-to-9, which is what its natural comes out of the crust. People go, well, you would be taxed, if you sell it. They had a windfall profits tax, and I said, aha. I would just borrow against it, because when you borrow against an asset, you're not paying tax on what you receive because there's a loan against it. So it is my hope that, number one, we'd either be able to borrow against it through a banking institution, or, geez, Rory, I think we know a bunch of people who have a bunch of silver. Why don't we just create our own bank and use it as collateral? And in my mind, I wouldn't even charge interest on the silver that we borrow. That we would be invested in properties, income-producing corporations and technology, and do it in an equitable way. Instead of saying charging interest and have debt, and basically becoming the new 1%. That a real beneficial financial system would actually encourage investment and have ownership of that investment, instead of hoping that you loan money to a company only to fail to seize all those assets at pennies on the dollar, which is what the debt and death paradigm has. So I hope that gives a little glimpse into what I feel the ultimate exit strategy is.
Well, I really like that strategy a lot, and I have a question regarding as far as say you and I and 8 other people form the Silver Trust Bank, whatever.
Yeah.
And we identify a company that we want to purchase, or that we want to invest in. How would we use the silver to purchase that? Would the owner of the company, would we be a partner with them? How do you see that working? Because it's kind of the nuts and bolts that I'm more interested in.
Sure. Well, my idea would be to form some sort of bank or trust company or something along those lines. Stockholders would pledge their physical ounces into a pool, and from that pool, you could create a debt note. I mean, every money comes into existence because debt is created. Like when you go to buy a car, the bank doesn't have $30,000 to give you, but what you do have is your signature, which they then create a note that has debt attached to it, and that in itself has legal value, because now you've pledged that you're going to buy that car for $30,000 plus interest. That's where the money comes from, is creating a debt against an asset. In this case, it's a car, but in the future, why couldn't it be silver? So if you have, I don't know, the equivalent of $1 billion worth of silver in the future, you could take a borrow against that silver, that $1 billion, and now you've got the $1 billion that the bank holds in their vaults as an asset, and now the debt is the money that is going out there to then go buy this company that you're interested in buying. That company, then, I'm assuming you're going to be buying it at, pennies on the dollar, or have price to earnings ratios that are in the single digits, that the profits from that business would go to pay back that debt that you took off on silver. And when that debt is paid off, the owners now own the silver that's still sitting in the bank and this profit generating company. And there was no interest attached to it, because you're using that capital to buy into that company. Then, geez, what couldn't you do? You
Right.
still have that silver that you could again borrow against, and you have an income producing asset that is profitable. How quickly can you form a debt free community system that is the complete opposite of this, debt and death paradigm that the Wall Street, has. Um, so but the key is to get to the point where the silver is worth, multiples of what it is, and the assets that are worth nothing. And we got a glimpse of that in 2008, because
Yes.
2008 we saw that silver, was viciously attacked prior to the financial collapse. People don't remember that it was actually Bear Stearns in March prior to the financial crisis that was short silver when silver was going up from, I don't know, $7 to $21. They were short, and when silver peaked that day on St. Patrick's Day 2008, that's when Bear Stearns collapsed to zero. And then J.P. Morgan obviously bought it for $2 a share, proceeded to put more capital into flushing out silver, and crashed it from 21 to 8 prior to the financial crisis. And when the financial crisis hit, you saw silver go from $8 to $50, in the few years after that, in response to QE, and then since then has been viciously attacked again. But during that time period, you saw, had the economy been allowed to purge those bad debts, this is the key thing. All the bad stuff that happened in 2008, nobody went to jail, none of the debts were wiped away, and nothing in the system was fixed.
Right.
That means that this is all the debt, all the players, all the systems are now at a global sovereign central bank level. And what fails on an institutional level will fail for a sovereign global, central bank level. And when it does, what couldn't you buy? If you have, people with mass unemployment, because it's 70% of this economy is based off of consumerism, which is nothing more than creating debt to go buy stuff that we don't need.
Right.
That's what our economy is based off of. So you have to think all those ancillary jobs that are based off of that, even the real jobs, the guys that make, oil and silver and steel and stuff, how much of that is going into this consumption of debt, of money that we don't have to buy stuff that we don't need? And when that all starts falling apart, Rory, that's when things get scary. And I could not imagine going through 2008 financial crisis with now your currency is not worth anything. Look at these people in Venezuela, man. I mean, if you really want to get nervous about where we're going, look no further than there. I mean, the average Venezuelan has lost 20 pounds in this past year because they're starving.
Yes.
Here we have these fat Americans who don't know, never not having pizza available all the time. There's people there because their currency is collapsed, are emaciated. I mean, I saw a lady who looked like she was 65 and she was 37 years old. She was worn thin. Her hair was gray. She didn't have anything to, color her hair and look youthful and be healthy. She looked like she had aged 30 years.
It's terrible. I mean, and I agree wholeheartedly that anybody that wants to truly understand what's happening, what the potential is for what could happen right here in your neighborhood, look no further than Venezuela. That is a great case study because it didn't happen overnight. This whole thing has been unfolding for 3 years, 4 years, and Daisy Luther over at the Organic Prepper, I mean, she did a great job of documenting the very early stages. She was writing articles once a week, once every 10 days, showing the absolute demise of this economy. And it finally, I think that it finally just got to her and she stopped writing about it because it's so depressing.
Yep.
But, I mean, they have no food, but yet the people at the top, they got everything they want in spades. So where does that leave you and I, Chris? It leaves us with a great case study to look at in real terms, in real life, and go, I need to do the opposite of what's happening there in order to protect myself, protect my family. How can I protect my community? What's it going to look like once this whole thing plays out? Start doing those war games in your head, doing them on paper, trying to figure out where you're going to be. Because if you don't see it from the end, then you're going to lose, and it's just that simple. And it's terrifying to me. I mean, it really is. You know.
Well, and I think everybody goes through that where they get to the point where, like, they deny it. I talk about the 5 stages of the awakening. That's like my
Yes.
little warm up video at my thing. Where they're in denial of it. They're like, oh, I can.
I can weather the storm.
I can. I'm not going to look at it. It's too big. It's too scary. And then you start learning the truth that the Federal Reserve is privately owned. That there's false flags out there like 9/11 that get us nations into war and debt. It becomes scary, and you become angry
Yes.
about it, and then you want to go tell everybody, and you tell your friends and family, and they think you're nuts, and you ruin Christmas parties over talking about World Trade Center, and then you finally get to the bargaining phase where you're like, well, what can I do? Where can I go? No one's listening. You reach out, you start following everybody in the world, thinking they all know, every YouTube channel in the world, and you start going down all these other false paths, and you might get involved in all these projects and stuff, and then you end up getting to the point where you realize that none of those are right. The world is too big, too messed up, and what can I do? And then you go into the depression phase, and then finally the final phase, to me, is where I've been for years, is the acceptance phase. Yes, the world is screwed up, but my world doesn't have to be.
Right.
And it's once you stop thinking, I don't want people to be ignorant of the debt and death paradigm. I don't want people to become, ignorant of Venezuela or, the true purpose of Bitcoin or any of these other things. It's a matter of being educated, but then saying, hey, what can I do in my life every day? Me personally, man, I've been working out like crazy. I've been, I got my bench press back up to 325 pounds. I've been working out, doing yoga, and losing weight because I know I need to be physically fit to withstand, whatever's coming. I want to be able to take care of myself and my family during that time period. But then you have to say, okay, what relationships do I have in my life? Do you have somebody in your life who is psychopathic, like who, would kill you if, things got bad? This is the time to purge those relationships out of your life.
Yep.
Do you have 1,000,000 calories of food? People go, Chris, you're always talking about silver. Well, it's because I got the basics covered, like I got my guns, I got my bullets, I got my food. But to me, silver is just that ultimate currency that will buy whatever you need in the future. You're not going to be able to, dehydrated beef stew. You're not going to be able to trade that for a gun, or
Right.
For property or a motor mount or whatever. But silver is that fungible, tangible asset that is used for everything. And I think that's just the most, efficient and most powerful way of preparing for whatever comes, because that will allow you to adapt. You're never going to be able to have everything that you need at a whole time. And that's where I think silver is a majorly overlooked part of the prepper movement. You get a lot of people talking about organic gardening and food storage and stuff like that, and guns, but they become completely blind to silver. And I just think that it's probably one of the most powerful things that you could be prepping with, is to have that underappreciated, undervalued, unloved, versatile, vital, commodity that is, been suppressed for 140 years, and is complete opposite of what is causing what will come.
Yep. I agree wholeheartedly. And Chris, I certainly appreciate all your words of wisdom. Really love what you're doing. Tell people how they can get involved with Silver Shield and what you have going on with the mini mintages and all that.
Thank you. Well, I got my YouTube channel, which is The Greatest Truth Never Told. I don't even know where our subscribers are now because I really don't even pay attention. But you can find my work at Silver Shield Exchange, just with an exchange.com. And every week I offer a new BU mini mintage, which is just a new design that I come out with once, and that's it. Comes with a certificate of authenticity, which no other bullion product out there comes with. They have a limited run. So like last week we did Grateful Death, which was my last of the 6 slave queens. And I think we only made like 4,500 of them that week. And that's all that will be made from that design. And I think it's a tremendous value because we're selling it at $2 to $3 over spot, depending on the quantity that you get. And there's no other silver product out there that you can get for that price that will come with a certificate of authenticity, that comes with these low mintages and do as well on eBay after the fact. I mean, every week, Rory, I sell them for $2 to $3 over spot, and every week I see the same one selling on eBay for $15 over spot because they're collectible, they're rare, and they're a market unto itself. And the reason why I created them is because now there's silver out there that the banksters can't manipulate. They can manipulate spot, but they can't manipulate these mini mintages because they're so small. And I really believe that this is a good way of deploying capital and paying yourself in real tangible wealth. And diversifying too. You know, when I first started stacking, I got 100-ounce bars and silver eagles, and I ended up with green boxes and ugly bars. And when I came time to get out of them, I saw that they were now a commodity. You know, they would never be worth much more than what I paid for them in spot. And now I've been redeploying all that capital into these mini mintages and even the proof strikes that I do for my members. And I'm watching the value of those far exceed the manipulated price of silver. So it's just had many different benefits, plus the fact that I think that they're historically significant. I mean, can you imagine during Roman times or the height of the British Empire, some crazy dude out there calling out the hypocrisy, the inequity, the trouble that is coming towards those empires? And here I am doing that as a private citizen. You know, I mean, I would probably be beheaded by Queen Victoria had I done it under her reign, or, you know, Stalinist Russia. Like, you know, would I be in a gulag, you know, somewhere for making, you know, anti-Stalin coins? And here I am doing, you know, Obama skull coins and, you know, Hillary stuff and all this other stuff. So I think it's a unique experience. I know I have 5 years into this, and it's just been my calling in life to do something that I think will be around for generations, to show humanity in the future that not all of us were crazy on this debt and death paradigm.
No, we're not all crazy, and I'm glad that you have that you're doing that, because, like I said, I see the value in it as well, and I think
Thank you.
and I'm glad that the attacks seem to be subsiding from the cryptos.
I don't mind.
They may
I
not be
was challenged to debates, and none of it came to fruition. But, you know, like I said, I've talked to the lead developers of Bitcoin. Ripple, the lead developer of Ripple, came to me before they became popular. You know, I've been bribed. You know, like, here, try some Bitcoin. I'm like, no, I don't want it. Like, I don't want it at all. You know, I'm not going to be participating in it. And I think one of the reasons why is because I think people don't see the real problem of even owning it. You know, there's anti-money laundering laws that the government's going to use against them, civil asset forfeiture, unpaid taxes. I mean, I think the risk of even owning any of these cryptos far exceeds whatever profits that are going to be made. You know, there was a neurologist in, I forget the guy's name, down in Arizona, and he got arrested for money laundering. You know, I mean, he's a neurologist, and this is a guy who's got success in his life, and now all that's gone simply because he, you know, was transacting Bitcoin and not declaring it as a money exchange thing. So, you know, you're going to have a lot. You know, they're dancing now, but at some point, it's not going to be good.
Yep, I agree. I'm with you 100%. I think that, I mean, Catherine Austin Fitts said it best. You know, that all the cryptocurrencies that are out there, they're just laying the groundwork for cashless society, and that's what I see as well. They're building the foundation. So
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I forgot even the Rockefeller interview, Nick Rockefeller with Aaron Russo. I mean,
yep,
freedom to fascism. Like,
yep.
how many years ago was that? That's exactly what they were fighting for. They talked about the war on terror being that they could have that war go on forever because they're hiding, you know, ghosts in caves that never exist. And then you know, Aaron Russo said, "What's the ultimate goal?" And the ultimate goal, Nick Rockefeller said, was to plant microchips in everybody and
Right.
have all the money on there. And if anybody got in their way, they would just turn off their chip.
There you go.
And yet all these people in the truth movement are enabling that exact end, the truth movement, for selling their soul on this stuff. I mean, this is what matters. You know, if they wanted to just make a quick buck, they should have been, you know, whoring out Snapchat stock to the millennials, and at least be honest. Say, hey, we're in it for the money, but don't pass yourself off as the truth movement and then turn your blind eye to what I think is the most important issue of humankind: is what is going to be when the dollar collapses. Are we going to enable a global digital cryptocurrency that will be able to track, trace, and tax all of human existence? The whole the whole man-made climate change that Al Gore pushed was another attempt to totally control all of human activity.
Right.
They go, oh, it's about saving the earth. No, it was about a
No.
carbon credit scheme, about that they would force companies to buy these carbon credits, much in the same way these cryptos, and have a limited amount, and that they would, jack up the price of these things, that they would have to buy them, and that's where that failed, and now miraculously Bitcoin comes onto the market.
Yes. And
and these governments, here's another thing. So people go, oh, Bitcoin's on the market. You got to get Bitcoin. They're going to use it. Bitcoin. No, these governments don't need your Bitcoin. They'll create their own Ponzi scheme. In fact, they'll probably prosecute you for having a Federal Reserve coin, a non-ACC coin, a non-IMF coin, and they'll call it counterfeiting or something like that. They don't need your Ponzi scheme. They're going to create their own Ponzi scheme. That's where the real money's made. There was a Goldman Sachs guy that recently created his own cryptocurrency. I forget the name of it now. And he cashed in for $250 million, like out of thin air. Why pay money into Bitcoin when you can create your own, cryptocurrency and have these ICOs?
maybe we should
And there's
create
1,000
one.
other of them out there. When Bitcoin was the only one on the block, okay, maybe I could see, that it was, the first one to market and all that. But there's 1,000 other of them,
Yes.
and it's not proprietary technology. It's open source. Anybody can do it. I know 3 people in my own group that are creating their own crypto coin, and they're, half of them are worth zero, Rory. But some of them, you can make a couple $1 million off of. Not bad for creating, an illusion out of thin air. But my opinion is, when a few get something for nothing, the rest will get nothing for something, and that's where all these bag holders, greater fools, and arrogant assholes come in, thinking that gambling and luck is the same thing as investing in intelligence. So let them have their party right now. I know at the end of the day that silver is going to be the only place to be, and I remain focused on that.
That's where I'm focused as well. I like gold also, but I'm a
If gold
I
was,
have a diversified
silver was
portfolio.
worth a lot more and gold was worth a lot less, I'd be buying gold too. But at this, gold to silver ratio, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, I still like gold. I mean, and did some analysis on the American Gold Eagles for this year, and I just looked at the mint sales. As a matter of fact, I still got it up. I mean, right now, the U.S. Mint American Gold Eagles, the half ounce coin, they've only produced 28,000 total for the year. It's going to
Yeah.
be either the lowest mintage ounces of gold this year, or it's either going to be the lowest or the second lowest. It's not going to be any higher than that. That's it. So I want
Or
to
you
get a
could
couple.
buy the Gold Freedom Girl.
Yep.
And we've only made probably 500 of them, and
Well,
it's definitely more beautiful.
yes.
And definitely be more rare, and you're not supporting the treasury of Goldman Sachs.
Well, that's true. That's very true.
Or you could buy 72 Freedom Girls in silver.
Well, see, now you're just bringing logic to the table.
I know. My curse.
Oh, well, we've been speaking with Chris Duane, and you can find all Chris's great work over at Silver Shield Exchange, and that is xchang.com. Chris?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your time today.
All right, Rory. Thank you.